I shouldn't have made things difficult for her. But the master had been acting more strangely lately. First, she praised the fish I cooked. Then she apologized. I shouldn't have said those things or hit you so hard, she said quietly. She even asked if I was still mad at her. Quickly shook my head. No, not at all. After that, I ran away again, feeling even more anxious and starting to wonder if the master had been possessed by someone. My aunt petted me and comforted me until I calmed down. But then the master's behavior became even more unpredictable. She stopped eating the fish I made, ignored me completely, and locked herself in her room to meditate. I guess she was grasping some profound technique and didn't want to disturb her. Until one day, my aunt's husband, the Wolf Clan leader, stormed in. My aunt and her husband were a classic case of a lovably bickering couple. Whenever they fought, it escalated to a clash between their clans. He claimed he came to bring his wife home, but his demeanor suggested he was ready for war. The Fox clan wouldn't back down easily, and soon we were at each other's throats. I urged my aunt to go back with him, but she pouted stubbornly. It's just a few days at my family's. Is it so serious? He asked if I was here raising a lewd fox. Who am I raising? Just you. Isn't he being unreasonable? My aunt huffed. Unreasonable. Totally unreasonable. I quickly agreed. She told me to help teach her husband a lesson. He definitely needs a good lesson. I rolled up my sleeves, ready to jump in. But unexpectedly, her husband didn't play by the rules. After a couple of exchanges, he clutched his chest and spat blood onto my fist. My aunt, who had been quietly watching, rushed over, looking furious and ready to scold me. Fueled by competitiveness, I didn't back down. I clutched my chest and spat blood as well. Seeing this, my aunt hesitated, then ultimately decided to scold her husband instead. It looked like we were fighting over a woman, battling to the brink. Just as I felt something was off, the sky darkened, and a strong wind roared. A giant golden dragon soared overhead. In everyone's shocked gaze, the master descended like a goddess before me. Little brat, I thought you grew up, but you're still so weak. She shook her head helplessly. There she was, my stunning, fierce master. Her fierce gaze fell on the Wolf Clan, and with a little smirk, she scoffed. He's under my protection. Was this a claim of ownership? Not quite right. Is that woman yours? She pointed at my aunt, then asserted defiantly, I'll help you take her back. My heart raced as I rushed forward, hugging her tightly. Master, calm down, please. Maybe it was because my aunt had been comforting me in a slightly intimate way the other day. It was all my aunt's fault for wanting to seem younger and telling me not to call her aunt since I was little. And the reason the master had been ignoring me was because she was jealous of my aunt. I felt joyous, practically bursting with happiness. But afterward, I realized I'd been deceived by Flowersoft. Master, you didn't really fail the trial, and you didn't lose your magic, did you? I asked, puzzled. Just a minor setback, a light injury, but nothing serious. It wasn't a failure, she replied smoothly while sipping tea, her tone casual. Why? Are you disappointed? Of course not. That's great. I was so excited. I wanted to hug her and kiss her fiercely, but as soon as I raised my arm, I froze, then weakly lowered it again. She wasn't just an ordinary fish demon. She was a fish spirit transformed into a dragon. She was a legendary guardian of the South Sea. No matter how strong I became, I would never have the right to aspire to be with a divine being. But to my surprise, she took my hand and placed it on her face. I was taken aback, pulling my hand back like I was shocked. Good disciple, weren't you bold when claiming me? Why the sudden meekness now? She raised an eyebrow, her tone teasing. Still mad? Haven't I apologized to you? She pinched my cheek, looking slightly exasperated. Don't get too cocky. I didn't. I scratched my head, feeling flustered. Her behavior made my heart flutter and ache at the same time. I looked at her with determination and pleaded, Master, please just give me an answer. I wanted to shout, Fish flower sister, stop playing with me. What do you really want? She leaned against the bed, patted the space beside her, then beckoned me with her finger. Come here, sit here. I obediently walked over and perched on the edge of the bed. But before I could settle in, I felt my collar tighten. Then, her soft lips pressed against mine for just a moment, like a brief butterfly kiss. My mind went blank, and I almost let my foxtail slip out. Little brat, didn't you say you'd thought it over? Do you want to try now? She spoke softly, her cheeks flushed. Thought it over? You want to use our Fox Clan's cultivation method to heal quickly? I stammered. A rare softness glimmered in her eyes, and I found myself nodding without thinking. Okay, let's give it a try, she whispered. The woman before me felt like a distant dream. I gently brushed her brow, her cheek, and those tempting lips. I could no longer contain my longing, and instinctively wrapped my foxtail around her slender waist. Our mouths danced together, the air thick with passion. I felt like I had gone mad. If I was crazy, then so be it. I connected a river, drawing crystal-clear water into the courtyard, where I kept all kinds of colorful fish. It felt like we had returned to the old days, secluded on that deserted island in the South Sea, relying on each other. The only difference was that the master treated me much more gently now, no longer resorting to violence like before. Clan members often asked when I planned to marry the master. I just laughed it off or used my parents' absence as an excuse to dodge the question, because I knew such days would come to an end. The master's injuries had healed significantly, and she began to speak to me more hesitantly. I understood she belonged to the sea and the vast heavens. She didn't belong to me. Sure enough, that night, after an intimate moment, she softly told me she had something to say. I quickly gestured for silence, then gently pressed my finger against her ruby lips, holding back the ache in my heart, forcing a smile. You don't need to say anything. I already know. What do you know? She looked at me in confusion. I turned my head, unable to meet her gaze. I know, in your eyes, I'm probably just a little fox you can call upon and toss aside whenever you please. I can amuse you when you're happy, and be discarded when you're angry. I didn't. The master seemed to want to explain something. Master, let me finish. I dodged her hand on my shoulder, took a deep breath. Even so, I still like you. A lot. Maybe part of it is just attraction, but I've never cared for anyone else, nor have I ever been this invested in someone. In my heart, no one compares to you. So, regardless of how you treat me, I won't hold it against you. So, as long as you need me, I'll always be here. But if you don't need me anymore, I won't cling on. I'll quietly leave, not to disturb your life. So please, don't use excuses to deceive me. I'm serious. Outside, the tree shadows swayed, and the night flowed quietly. After a long while, a soft sigh came from behind me. Well, thinking like that isn't too bad. There were no farewells, no promises. She was gone. Maybe she would return, or maybe she would never come back. I drowned my sorrows in alcohol for several days, using it to numb myself. Then, Flowersoft showed up again. Flowersoft said the master wasn't just using me for healing or ditching me, but had a real crush. Yeah, right. Another lie. Couldn't be bothered. I hadn't even settled the score with her from last time. But when Flowersoft asked, "Do you know why she didn't turn into a man?" I couldn't help but open my eyes. Because she fell for you. She chose to give it up. Her voice dripped with smugness. I clenched my fists, knuckles popping. What do you want? She suddenly went back to the South Sea. The sealed water monster is acting up. She's in danger. Are you going to save her or not? Flowersoft asked urgently. Why didn't you say so sooner? I bolted up, ditched the wine jar and ran. Took you long enough to respond. Who knew if you were alive or dead? If that fish's booze wasn't so valuable, I wouldn't bother with you too. Flowersoft grumbled behind me. When I got to the South Sea, the surface was calm, but thankfully I wasn't too late. I helped with the last seal. The master put so much effort into getting that golden dragon body. She would have been sad. She turned back into a fox again. The master was hugging me again, swimming out with that golden tail. You idiot. I treated you like that, and you still came. She looked helpless. I snuggled in her arms, shaking my head. Can't help it, I love her. But it wasn't just for her. If the South Sea was messed up, Windsleep Mountain wouldn't be safe either. As the Fox Clan leader, I had to do my part. I had the master turn into my shape, go back to the Fox Clan, and give an order that I was away and put White Bamboo in charge. He's got a big ego, looks down on me, and is annoying, but I beat him down. The master was stroking my fur, joking. Aren't you afraid he'll take your power? I wrote. He wouldn't dare. Master's got my back. I was thinking, take it. I can be the master's fox forever. Also, the Fox Clan was doing pretty well since I abolished charm magic. But I don't think the master likes me like that. So I was training, trying to get better, and not waste the tasty medicine she carefully made. Until I realized the flavor came from her heart scale. And it smelled like her wine she gave me, but more intense. She saw my face, pointed at her heart, smiling easily. It helps you get better. Does it hurt? I asked. Heart scales must hurt to get taken off. She suffered so much for me. Nah, I found this, it's not mine. Why would it hurt? She said, trying to act cool. Really? My heart hurts. I asked the question I wanted to ask. Flowersoft said she gave up turning into a man because of me. Giving up turning into a man? It's not important, but if you want to think that, it's fine. She said, smiling. I dove into her arms, crying. I can't believe it. We both felt the same. Why didn't you tell me sooner? And let me misunderstand? It was embarrassing, she said, stroking my fur. Extra thing down there and less things on my chest. Wasn't it a bad deal? Yeah. I nodded, rubbing her hand, saying without care, it's yours now. Okay, I know. Acting cute. Aren't you ashamed? She said, joking. The master fed me and nursed me, and I barely turned back in 3 years. I didn't wait this time. I jumped in the pond and grabbed her. She still loved to soak. I'd missed her so much the past 3 years. Even though I saw her every day. It's different, I said, blushing. I held her, falling on the bed, kissing her, and we rolled together. Cultivating helps me get better, I said as an excuse. Extra. Fish flower sis, no, I don't have a name. I'm not a dragon. My mom was a mermaid. Top mermaids are born male and turn to dragons after 100 years of training. Medium mermaids can turn into men when they're older and can become dragons after training 1,000 years. And my mom was born female and used by men. They'd lose all their power giving birth, and they'd become low-class mermaids. Those mermaids were worse than fish. Females are lower. When I was younger, I was often laughed at and the males wanted me to give them children. I looked okay. My mom was flower. Even in my training notes, they had written it. They wanted me to know. As a woman, I was nothing. The dragons went into civil war with top mermaids, and monsters came. While they were fighting, I ran and hid, training. I didn't listen to the world. I think the water monsters got sealed and the South Sea became better. Then I found a heart scale. I was going to sell it, but it stuck to me and then went in. I had a dream. The leader of the dragons used a mermaid to fight the monsters and died. Before he died, he put a spell on the heart scale and let it find the next South Sea guardian. Everyone was dying and I didn't have the heart. I was training, wanting to become a man and a dragon. I hid for 1,000 years. When I woke up, the world had changed. I was tired and went back to the island, drinking, eating fish and training, until a fox fell in my arms and had stars in his eyes. I helped him with the lightning trial. Maybe he wanted to pay me back. He made me soft. I let him. It was fun. But he was a guy. When I turned up a day late, I saw the fox turned into a red-dressed boy and was calling, fish, flower, sis. Any man who called me that had died. I wanted to get rid of him, but I was sad. After, he came back hurt like a dog. I brought him home and made him my student. He was bad, but he couldn't beat me. He wasn't like other men. He gave me fish to eat. It was better than mine. And I couldn't tell him. He gave me a face and smiled at me when I was mad. I didn't want to be bad to him. He was born weak. I had to help him next time. I gave him my power in the wine. He talked when he drank too much, looking at me and saying, you know the Fox clan has a way to quickly get better. For some reason, I got scared when he looked at me. I was using charm on him, yelling at his fox ears. I thought I didn't care. He wasn't mad, and I got bad. I liked him. He was so drunk that I got wine every day. I saw a cat demon and she was talking to a man. The man was saying, you like me and I know it. I realized it was to like someone. It was a love. Red Eyes liked me. If he wasn't using charms, then maybe I liked him too. I had to cut my losses. After returning, I shared a few drinks with him and told him it was a dead end. Because I'm turning into a man in the future. I warned him and that if he talked nonsense again, he'd be sent back to the Fox clan. Later, I ran into Flowersoft and we chatted for a bit. She suggested a way to test my little disciple's true feelings for me and see how I felt about him. I don't want to test anything. I just want him to give up, I replied. She chuckled. It's the same thing. Just get me into his bed. That'll count as a test. I believed her, and afterward, whenever Flowersoft was mentioned, Red Eyes would grind his teeth in anger. I didn't know whether to blame her or thank her. I remembered that day when Red Eyes stormed in, furious, and I felt a mix of guilt and relief, while trying to keep a calm facade and joke around. He was so mad. He actually came up to me and kissed me, declaring, "No one but me." That made me realize something was off, because I didn't pull away. I was fooling myself. He must have used charm magic on me again, chasing after him until midnight. Seeing his pitiful face made me relent. So, I jumped into the pond, trying to meditate and force myself to sleep, to forget everything. But after a while, Flowersoft came to bother me again. "Your little disciple is very devoted. If he's met a perfect guy like you, he should either marry him or clarify things. You're like some of those men on Earth. Not proactive, not refusing, not responsible, just enjoying his kindness." She criticized mercilessly. "If you can't reciprocate your little disciple's feelings, you need to be cruel and send him back to the Fox clan. Don't waste the little fox's life." I thought she had a point. Extra 2. The husband-chasing furnace. I didn't tell Red Eyes that it wasn't just him making me give up becoming a man. At the last moment, I saw my inner demons. In the past, in the South Sea, I was the lowest of the low in those men's eyes. I trained desperately to escape that identity, to prove my worth, to become a man and fly up as a dragon. But a voice asked me, why? Why must I prove my worth by becoming a man? What they looked down on was the femininity, not me. Since the dawn of time, mermaids turned into dragons were all male. At that moment, I wanted to be the first to break that rule, to see if a woman could have the right. Moreover, being liked sincerely by a boy like Red Eyes felt incredible. So I chose to give up. The process was perilous, but I succeeded. I proved them wrong, even if they would never hear my voice again. But that heart scale in my chest wasn't pleased. It must have just realized I wasn't its master, creating a powerful backlash that almost tore my heart apart. I gritted my teeth and forcefully tore it off, and it eagerly flew back to the South Sea. "Go on. I'll grow new scales, ones that belong to me." With my perception technique, I saw Red Eyes chopping down the charm fruit tree, blocking the 3 lightning tribulations that came from it. He had become the chief of the Fox clan and managed it well. That made me proud. That little brat didn't waste all those years drinking. I regretted it. I missed him a bit. Finally, when I decided to wander back to the Fox clan, Flowersoft came to ask for wine. I didn't have much left, and I hesitated, but she said she had a way to get Red Eyes to bring me back. All right, I'd help her one last time. But who would have thought she'd trick me into this? What a self-inflicted mess. But that little brat didn't know what was going on. I had been so gentle, so straightforward, even apologizing. Yet he was still angry. Then I saw him crying while holding a female fox. I was exhausted. The pain in my heart worsened. I had to retreat into meditation, training to heal. Just as I opened my eyes, I found out he was fighting the Wolf Clan leader over a female fox, and hadn't gotten the upper hand. I couldn't allow that. If he wasn't my man, he was still my disciple. I had to protect him. He was scared and clung to me tightly. I was speechless. Whose nephew calls their aunt a beautiful fox all the time? I couldn't help but quip. Exposing myself took some weight off my shoulders. Watching his excited expression, I couldn't help but pull him in for a kiss. He once asked if I could consider him. Now I could tell him I had considered it. I wanted to try. It had gotten so direct. He should understand my feelings by now. I liked him, agreed to have him as my man, and to cultivate together. Felt good. The wound in my heart healed faster. But just as things started looking up, I was about to have bad luck again. I sensed the water monster sealed in the South Sea stirring, and it was using the scale I had discarded. It drove me mad. If it were the old me, I wouldn't bother with such trivialities. But it was different now. If the South Sea went chaotic, Windsleep Mountain would surely suffer. My little fox's territory needed my protection. There was bound to be danger, just like the Dragon Clan who nearly lost their lives. I thought long and hard about how to tell Red Eyes, and he gave me an excuse. What he thought of me as someone he could summon and dismiss at will, just to amuse him when he was happy and leave behind when he was angry. To think, in his mind, I was that kind of woman and he even liked me? I had intended to explain, but then again, I wasn't sure I'd survive. This thinking worked for him. At least it wouldn't be so painful. Thankfully, the water monster's power hadn't recovered much. I reclaimed that broken scale and used it to reinforce the seal. But I had overestimated my strength. After reinforcing the seal, I feared I wouldn't have the energy to swim out of the South Sea. Honestly, I felt a little reluctant, and I regretted not properly telling Red Eyes I liked him. Yet, I underestimated his determination. As he swam toward me fearlessly, I realized this little brat was quite brave. He tightly grasped my hand, helping me finish the final seal. But he turned back into a fuzzy red fox. No choice but to nurture him gradually. After all, my heart scale had grown back.